when we talk about Ewa Pile in Yoruba, what are we talking about when we say Ewa Pile? We talk about internal and external harmony and balance. If we were using Omanela and the Igbo town, we talk about internal and external harmony and balance. That's what you're trying to restore. That's what your philosophy should help you bring about, both in your character and the family character, then the community character. That's what you're trying to do. And that means to seek harmony with nature and cosmology as well as humans and in your ecology. That's what the African thing is about. It's not about no crazy people. You know, we've got medical books written in ancient Kemet where they're doing brain surgery, we're doing obstetrics, where they're doing other kind, abdominal medicine, books written back then by black folks. So we're not new to science and technology. When we left Africa to come to the Western Hemisphere as enslaved, captured people, because we never agreed to slavery. We weren't a part of making any laws that said if you captured me, I'm a slave.
Right.
So I was never a slave. My ancestors was never a slave. That's in the mind of some other crook who stole me, who captured me, who stole my labor, who stole my wealth. I did not make any law that tell him if he captured me, I'm a slave. So why are we going to let him set the narrative that defined who we were? Because that's not who we were. We were Africans who had been falsely set upon. What happened to us was what they call human trafficking today. It was a criminal offense then. Under universal principles and law, it is a criminal offense now. But we're letting somebody rewrite history by claiming he could make a law that can govern me, and I had nothing to do with making the law. That's not the way the world works. At least not the African world. And so if you go back to the African ancient books, you will find every story in the Bible. And then you will find further along in that same story, using some of the same characters at a different time in history, you'll find the Cain and Abel story where the envious, jealous brother Cain would kill out of envy his brother Abel. So you will find that same story in the ancient African literature thousands of years earlier, where the brother Set would kill his brother Osiris out of envy and jealousy. Now there was never anybody named Set or anybody named Osiris, just like there was never anybody named Cain or never anybody named Abel. It is a story about envy and jealousy at any time in the consciousness of humanity demonstrating itself and manifesting itself, right? And so those are just a few of the things. You can go further and you can see stories like the Immaculate Conception. You know, matter of fact, the Ethiopian New Year, which is celebrated on the 11th of September, is all about the Immaculate Conception. But nobody really, even many Ethiopians no longer know what their holiday is really about. Okay? And the holiday is about the day when this woman resurrects her husband, which is the Lazarus story or the Jesus Easter story, and is animated by the real thing, the energy, the divinity. When this body, when this group of elements have spent itself, depleted itself, and broken down, what happens to the energy that is you? My grandmother was dying, and I went home. And my grandmother raised all of us, even though my mother and father was in the house. My mother and father were more like brothers and sisters. My grandmother and grandfather, they were the bosses. And then I had my great-grandmother there, and she was even more of a boss. And so when Mama was dying, and Mama was a traditionalist, we call her root woman down in South Carolina. And so my mother called and said, if you want to see her, you need to come home quickly. So I jumped on a plane and I flew to South Carolina. And I got to her bedside. And she asked everybody to leave the room. So I said, oh Lord, what's going on now? And she told me, she said, James, she used to call me James. Because in certain African language, you can't, the word J don't exist, so you don't pronounce it. So her J was a G. And she said, James, I want to go home. I said, well, Ma, you don't have to stay here. I thought she wanted to go back home to the house, you know. I said, I'll tell him now to take you home. You could die there. She said, oh, no, I don't want to go back there. She said, I want to go home. And then I got a little scared right about there. I come out. She said, come take me up out of here. She told me to come and take that spirit out of my body. And then I go. I was so scared, I did not know. I just was short of wetting my pants when I went. I remember putting my 2 arms under her arms, pull her chest around, I slid her back up on the pillow. And she took a deep breath. And she was calm. She said, you could tell the others to come in now. And I did. And the next day I flew back to New York. And I called that morning my sister, oh, after you left last night, Mama was sitting up there eating grits and catfish. And she was just having a good time talking about Pete and all of them. And while she's talking to me, Mama passed. We give that, sometimes we call it the ghost. That energy finds another being to reside in until it gets this new body. Or it could reside in your ecology because it's energy. You go back and merge with the greater force of energy in the total universe. But if you don't complete your journey because you're down here fooling around with all the negative and sliding and dodging, then you got to come back and repeat the process over and over until your time is done. The whites took from that the concept called purgatory. If you study your history, it'll make the rest of the world so simple. It just make it all so simple. You know. You ever been in love? Girls, yeah, right. In the African sense, love is not loving your body or loving your looks or loving your personality. Africans love the God in them, which they have spent their whole life cultivating, meaning those Africans who are in our senses, because we're out of our senses both at home and here, thanks to colonialism and slavery, but we're coming back. It is the God in me that seeks the God in you because I know the God in me and thus I can recognize the God in you. That's what love is about. They make us think love is about the shape of your hips, the contours of your face, the color of your clothing, the type of hairstyle, the smoothness of a personality presentation. Most people who present their personality is putting the best foot forward. And it's almost always false, you know. And all of us have been there. I thought I was in love so many times. So Lord have mercy. I know my passion and my love can give you the capacity to mate at that level and create. Every human being you know was created by human beings. So let's stop going to somebody's fake out. You want to look and treat God like God is God, look in the mirror. There's nothing you know about God that didn't come from the mind of a man and a woman. Nothing. It's scary because it's so much more comfortable to give it away to some external esoteric essence that don't have to take responsibility for anything. Somebody defeated us militarily and then decide to tell us who we are and who we are not. And to the degree we don't know who we were, we buy into the who we are not. And everybody takes a piece of our story and make it their story and tell us we have no story.